Chapter 3. The show must go on. Picture me having just turned 11 years old, wearing a black leather miniskirt, a gold lame blouse, an enormous blonde wig, bright red lipstick, and bluish gray shadow under my right eye, so that I look as though my latest paramour has just given me a shiner, a black eye, punched you in the eye. My arm is in a sling. I'm singing my heart out. I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm playing Audrey in a junior production of Little Shop of Horrors at the JCC, Jersey Community College? And I'm committed to the role, having spent hours working on an impeccable New York accent. Yes, doctor. Okay. I am pre-adolescent but utterly sexed up, playing a brassy downtown girl with a bit of a confidence problem and terrible taste in men, who yearns for the safety and uniformity and predictability of the suburbs. It's when I'm belting out the ending of Suddenly Seymour that I realize who I want to be when I grow up, and I want to grow up as soon as possible. A Broadway star. I begin to collect original Broadway cast recordings on cassette. I study sheet music and have a somewhat impressive collection of half-price Barnes & Noble coffee table books about the magic of Broadway. I listen constantly to lesser-known Andrew Lloyd Webber musical called Song and Dance that's all about the romantic travails of a young woman new to New York City, just like I am going to be one day. I concentrate intently on the coy yet passionate way Bernadette Peters sings every single word, until I have memorized the whole thing, fake British accent and all. I sing the entirety of the show in the shower, to my older brother's great distress, fantasizing in equal parts about being on Broadway and having a ton of tumultuous love affairs. I am all Pantene and melodrama. Pantene, I think is that makeup? I don't know. The next year, the school musical is Peter Pan, and I get the title role. 12 is a good age to play Peter Pan, that beacon of perpetual youth, that willful dismissal of both responsibility and puberty. A thing I fake when acting in the role of Peter Pan, flying. The intermediate school has neither the budget nor the inclination to pony up for suspension cables and harnesses. Better to just bend at the waist and extend your arms to suspend nothing but your disbelief. Another thing I fake when playing Peter Pan, being a little boy. It's easy. Pin my hair back, throw on a green felt costume, under which the only curves of my body are composed of pure baby fat. The role requires an utter lack of sexuality, and for all of the last year's aspirational Audrey energy, I am in no position to disoblige. Although I read well above my grade level and have a whole bunch of R-rated movies and I'm already adult in my mind, my body still refuses to match. Then, adolescence comes for me at age 13 and everything changes, but not in the way that I had hoped. No newly budding boobs for me. No being taken more seriously by adults. It was all smelly pitted angst and mood swings and sebum that required scouring with oxypads which stung like a million tiny wasps in my pores. This was all regular kid stuff, and most of my classmates were also enduring, although, as always, some of us had an easier time than others. Puberty beat the shit out of me in unique and astounding ways. My hormones, surging like a 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke when you open it immediately after you dropped it on the floor, caused my blood sugar to rise and fall and rise even higher with seemingly no correspondence to the insulin I was taking or the food that I was eating. To spend just about every waking moment preoccupied with how you can feel physically is exhausting in a way that healthy people can underestimate. When it feels like your body has turned against you, just getting through the day is a challenge. Every morning my mom or dad would wake me up and first thing we'd test is my blood sugar, which back then required squeezing out a big drop of blood from my finger and placing it carefully on a test strip, before gently inserting it into a reader and waiting 2 minutes to get an accurate result. Then I would lie in bed while my mom called my endocrinologist to report the results, so that Dr. Larson could give me instructions on how to proceed, how much insulin I should inject, and what I should eat and when. Then it was off to school. Mornings were mostly fine. I was a little sleepy, but alert enough. Then lunch was at 11 a.m., and then by 12:30 or so, my body was done. How I dreaded the afternoon, when I knew my body would revolt sometime around geometry class, while my classmates went about their days as if nothing had changed. Inevitably, I find myself sitting in the nurse's office for the umpteenth time, the smell of rubbing alcohol and latex gloves pervading while I rested on a green cot. If I needed a little extra comfort, I'd shake out my green army blanket balled up at the bottom of the cot and wrap it around myself. If it was a really bad day, I would wait there for my mom to pick me up and take me home. I had a lot of really bad days. Physical anguish became mental anguish and then turned back to physical anguish, so it was nearly impossible to differentiate, a vicious cycle of pain. The more classes I missed, the more difficult it became to return. My two top recurring nightmares to this very day, that I've tested my blood sugar and my monitor says it's 1 million or 1 billion. All of the monitors have usually topped out around 500. Or that I'm in geometry class having missed approximately 100 days in a row, and it's a quiz time right now, and my mind is blank, but I have no excuses not to take it. That year, the school musical was Annie. I auditioned to play Miss Hannigan because mentally I was already an embittered adult with a drinking problem and a sadistic streak. I went to look at the newly posted cast list, and when I saw my name next to the title role, it was not entirely a pleasant surprise. It was so rare in the junior high school genre to have to play someone younger than you are, especially when you believe yourself to be so much more mature than your classmates. It also doesn't help to develop an unrequited crush on a 13-year-old boy playing Daddy Warbucks, a confusing, incestuous mess. As much as I felt like an adult on stage, I was also reverting to the very childlike state of needing my mom at just about all the time. The immediate relief I felt the moment her car pulled up in front of the nurse's office vanished almost as soon as we walked through the door to the house. Terrible guilt trailing behind me, like I hadn't tried hard enough through the last day. Maybe my teachers and classmates thought I was simply staging an elaborate hoax in order to get to leave school, like I was pulling a Ferris Bueller, but with none of the fun. Ferris Bueller is a famous movie where someone skips school. How difficult it is to require accommodations when you are a rule follower. I always wanted to be at the top of my class, to get all A's, to be exemplary, and I was the one who put pressure on myself. My parents, in fact, were the ones to console me when I was devastated by a less than perfect grade, crying over getting a B in 7th grade science or something else entirely insignificant. And then suddenly my body made it so that being a good student was no longer even close to my main priority. This is how I know I had a privileged childhood. I was never expected to think about how exhausted and scared my parents were in all this. I was never made to contemplate their points of view, the havoc that my body was causing in their own lives. Illness makes narcissists of the best of us, I suppose, and I was just a dumb theater kid. How lucky that I had a mom who was able to leave her job at Ocean Township Sewerage Authority, where she was a lab technician, to come pick me up whenever I summoned her. That both she and my father had the time and money and flexibility, or made the time and money and flexibility, to see to my needs. By the spring of 1992, right in the middle of Annie rehearsals, we had made no headway in my unpredictable blood sugar, and my endocrinologist decided that monitoring me by phone was insufficient. So my parents took a full week off from their regular lives and admitted me to Mount Sinai Hospital in New York for observation. In my little suburban mind, this was where they treated the hard cases. I'd become a hard case. We packed up my books and some clothes and Muffy, the little red heart-holding teddy bear I slept with every night since I was diagnosed, and Dad drove us to Manhattan. We listened to Miss Saigon or Jerome Robbins' Broadway all the way. For that week, we did everything we were told, as we always did. I ate the food that I was given per diet plans made by a nutritionist and nothing more. I took the insulin that I was prescribed right on time. I went with my parents on walks down city streets to get some exercise and fantasize about a time far in the future when I might become a real New Yorker. And yet, my blood sugar was as out of control as ever. The doctors shrugged at us and eventually sent me home without much guidance. There would be no easy fix. Over the next few years, the three of us, me and my parents, went into Manhattan for doctor's visits every couple months. I can't offer many details about my life during that period of time or my state of mind. Thank you to my brain for blocking out what I presume to be our many unpleasant memories. Good job, brain. What I do remember but I will never forget. Whenever we saw a doctor in New York, we would also afterward see a Broadway show. My mom and dad made a little event out of each, and every otherwise tedious trip, giving me something to look forward to in the midst of all this bad fortune. There's nothing better than to sit in the darkness of a theater and lose myself in someone else's story. Yes, that's a chess reference. I don't get that reference, but okay. Preferably with lots of singing and dancing. We saw the corny old-timey musicals like Guys and Dolls and Crazy for You, all optimism and cute costumes and bright colors. We also saw the ones that felt to me like high art, Les Miserables, The Phantom of the Opera. If they were darker and moodier than your typical Broadway musical, well, then so was I. I identified so much with the two protagonists in Kiss of the Spider-Woman, the musical adaptation of Manuel Puig's novel about two men confined to an Argentine prison who live in a constant state of fear of torture or worse. But in their cell, these bedraggled, beaten men could let their imaginations run wild, and that's where Chita Rivera comes in. She was all color and light and glamour, and I'd never seen such an on-the-nose example of what escapism can do for sad people. That dank prison cell was probably less appropriate than the barricades of the pre-French Revolution as a setting for a flashy Broadway musical, and I wanted to live there. Still, there was joy in going back to the low-stakes cartoon world of Annie, with its wholesome delights and happy ending. After so many days out of commission, how exciting it felt to go back to rehearsal, to catch up on all of the floor scrubbing and dish rag wielding choreography to the hard knock life, to get caught up in the orphan's quest for love and money and a dog of one's own. There was talk of not allowing me to participate in the show, I later learned, and there were many conversations I wasn't privy to where my parents pleaded with the school officials to let me perform. If I couldn't make it through a day of school, said the powers that be, why should I be able to participate in after-school activities? It was simple logic. My mom and dad never backed down. It was too important for them, to have this one thing that I loved. I missed approximately 56 geometry classes that year, but I made it to opening night for the junior high school musical. I was able to don the curly red wig and the Mary Janes and get up on that stage and sing my heart out. Everything was supposed to get better eventually. That's what the song Tomorrow is all about. I needed to believe in that promise. I needed that sun to come out, and so did my parents. Unfortunately, no one told me the Pomeranian who was cast as Sandy, who I was supposed to hold in my lap and serenade. I sang to that little dog with all the hope and conviction I could muster, and Sandy the Pomeranian sneezed wet sneezes in my face for the entirety of the song. This became a kind of worldview. You can try real hard and hit all your notes and still, somehow, find yourself covered in dog snot at the end. After that terrible year, my body calmed down a lot, and what a gift it was to be able to obsess about my grades once again. And I had learned an important skill. I learned to mask it better when I wasn't feeling great, to smile when I was low. There's no business like show business. Literally though, I really did learn to smile when my blood sugar was low, to keep me going even if I felt a little disoriented. I wouldn't let anything stop me. The following year, I had perfect attendance at school and a 4.0 grade point average, and the conviction that I would do every single thing that I could to never feel out of control again. So yes, the seeds of my OCD were firmly planted at the ripe age of 14. That year, I got to play the mistress in a community theater production of Evita, which meant performing and interacting with real adults and staying out at rehearsals till late at night. On performance night, I would stand center stage in an old-timey satin slip, holding a battered suitcase, all eyes on me, singing a song about how I'm a hardened teenage sex worker at the end of an affair with a vicious dictator. I was officially back, baby. Later, I would read Barbara Ehrenreich's Bright-Sided about her own diagnosis with breast cancer and how horrified she was to realize that being a warrior, quote unquote, is the only socially acceptable way to deal with a debilitating illness. We want our sick people to inspire us, battle diseases, tough it out when faced with adversity. As Susan Sontag detailed in Illness as Metaphor, we constantly use language of war to talk about physical phenomena over which we have very little control. Beat cancer, fight through the pain. Where does that leave those of us who are just too tired? In 2008, type 1 diabetes was officially recognized as a disability under the Americans with Disabilities Act. What a paradigm shift to consider myself disabled rather than just weak or tired or unlucky. Still, grind culture had officially gotten me. I'm officially an adult woman who gets to be in charge of my own body and to make choices that feel right to me. But prioritizing my health over work still feels mildly transgressive to this day. Even though I lived in New York City for 20 years, I don't see many Broadway shows anymore. Have you seen ticket prices? But one night in late 2021, I received comp tickets to a buzzy new play, and Josh and I were prepared to don our N95s and head into Manhattan to see it. First, we ate an early dinner at a neighborhood deli, and at the end of that dinner, as happens more often than any of us would like, my blood sugar became inexplicably low. There I was, sitting in the deli, realizing that my neighbor's corned beef Reuben had become blurry. Josh ordered dessert, a proper dessert, a Nanaimo bar that was chocolatey and crunchy, and I wish I'd been more into it so that I could describe it better now. But that's what happens when dessert is a lifesaver rather than just a treat. We could have continued on our way once my blood sugar stabilized, hopped on the subway, still a little shaky, and raced to the theater to make it by curtain time. But I went home instead. I chose to go home, chose to sit on my couch and put my feet up, chose to allow myself to recover in my own time. That choice is a gift. I learned it from my parents. There's so much to be said for persevering, for embodying that the show must go on spirit. But whenever I have doubts, I will remember now, at the time of my youth, when I experienced a life-shattering lack of control, and all of the world wanted me to fight through it. My parents let me rest. I will always be grateful.